Welcome to the Cardinal Report, your weekly 30-minute look inside the world of North Central College athletics. I'm Justin ZIPSER. This week we focus on the North Central College baseball team. It finished under 500 for the first time in 4 years last season, but in 2014 the talent and experience is there for a deep conference run. Before we dive headfirst into baseball, let's first catch you up on the last week or so in the rest of NCC's spring athletic programs. Lacrosse had a week off before returning to action on Wednesday versus MWLC opponent Concordia University, Wisconsin. The Cards jumped out to an early 5-1 lead, but fell behind at half, 7-6. The second half was a topsy-turvy affair that saw an exciting NCC 3-goal comeback, but tied at 13 in the final minute. A North Central turnover in the defensive zone led to a Hannah Redden goal for Concordia. It was the difference in the one-score win for the Falcons. Sophomore Gina Fisher tied a single-game program record with 7 goals while breaking the career record for ground balls. Her current total now sits at 140. The loss against the Falcons was the first one ever head-to-head in the matchup, while also being NCC's first home loss and MWLC loss of 2014. The women's golf team had a strong showing in the Illinois Wesleyan Spring Fling, placing 6th in a field of 19 teams. The team cut its stroke number by 21 from day 1 to day 2 in a nice comeback effort. Rachel Oberheide placed 8th overall with a score of 157, and Elena Dufour was 23rd with a final tally of 165. Men's tennis dropped its 2 home matches this past week, first against Elmhurst 8-1, then to Wheaton 9-0. In the duel against the Blue Jays, brothers Connor and Mason Sass teamed up for a win in 2 doubles. Women's tennis returned home from Hilton Head, South Carolina to host its first home meet since the 1st of March. The ladies clicked on all cylinders against Aurora University, besting the Spartans 9-0. Freshmen Katie Drone and Miranda Grizafi each registered straight-set 6-love victories in 1 and 2 singles, respectively. Softball continues its trek into the regular season with another nice week of play on the diamond, going 5-1. The lone loss came in the opening half of a doubleheader against the University of Chicago. The week also included low-scoring wins over a gritty Elmhurst College team. NCC has only dropped 1 game in CCIW play this season and is currently ranked 18th in the nation by the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association. Both the men's and women's track and field teams continued their strong play to get the outdoor season started. The women finished second in the 20-team Chicagoland Outdoor Championships. Lena Baker won the hammer throw for a consecutive week, outthrowing the second-place finisher by nearly 20 feet. That helped her become the CCIW Field Event Athlete of the Week. The men cruised to a win at the same invite. On the field, Femi Oyewale cleared 6 feet and 6 3/4 inches to take first place in the high jump. Nick Friedrich also took first in the javelin throw. As promised, we have baseball on the show today to update us on how the season is going so far. The Cards have just recently started playing at their home field here in Naperville, so it's a good time to gauge where the team is heading into the home stretch. Don't go anywhere. More Cardinal Report coming your way next.
Yes, ready. Let's go get it.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
Welcome back to the Cardinal Report. We're starting things off with North Central College baseball head coach John Fitzgerald. Coach, thanks for stopping by and making time for us in your schedule.
My pleasure.
So let's talk about the season a little bit. Kind of like looking at last year when you had the injuries and kind of inconsistency in the lineup sometimes. You're kind of going through some of the same things this season, a little bit of injury troubles, but I think we're seeing more consistent results in the batting order. From your review in the dugout, what are you kind of seeing from the team this season?
Probably depends on the day a little bit.
Yeah.
It's vastly different from last year. I think you're 100% right on that. We had some injuries last year, especially prior to the season even starting, that kind of hamstrung us a little bit. This year it's been backed up a little bit. Where our season got going, I thought we had a nice rhythm once we got back from Florida, and a couple of the injuries hit, and you know, we had to change our lineup, put some guys out of position, and that obviously is not your ideal when you draw it up in the winter for how it's going to be. But the one thing that I think has helped us, and I think will help us over the last few weeks of the season, is the fact that the guys really work hard. And that's probably a little bit different than it has been the last couple of years from the standpoint of, I think collectively, this is a great group to coach. They show up to play every day. They almost probably want it a little bit too much. And I think that's some of the drawback we've seen the last week and a half or so as we've kind of battled through the injuries and guys playing in different positions is the fact that when guys have struggled, other guys have tried to do a little bit too much. And I think when you press, it becomes a really difficult game to play and perform and be successful at.
And we're looking at one-run game situations. You've had 5 of those so far this season, 2 and 3 in those one-run situations. You think the pressing comes into play in those situations as well?
I think the pressing comes into play probably a lot earlier in the ball game than anything else. Okay. We've obviously really, I think, pitched very well this year, and that's kept us in games or allowed us to really put games away early on. It's difficult from that standpoint, but I mean, everybody presses a little bit late in the ball game. I think it's what we need to do and what we need to probably change in the first quarter, first half of a ball game.
Definitely had some struggles here and there, but overall, pretty good season so far. Since Tuesday's game at Benedictine was postponed this week, that means the last time the Cards were in action was this weekend. Let's check out the highlight of Game 1 of a doubleheader versus Elmhurst College.
The weather is warming up in Naperville, so hopefully that means the bats come out at Zimmerman Stadium. North Central hosting CCIW foe Elmhurst College. Let's skip ahead to the bottom of the 3rd inning. First baseman Jake Rohn is on first after a leadoff hit by pitch. Joe Paparone follows him there with a frozen rope to left. Rohn's still the lead runner on second, bringing up second baseman VITO DERANGO with nobody out. He takes Hanlon's pitch into the left center gap. Rohn's around the score, and we're all knotted up at 1 run apiece. Sam Klein up next, doesn't have to do much to induce the next run. Pass ball brings in Paparone from third, 2-1 NCC. DERANGO also moves up and later scores with a sac fly from Klein. The tough inning for Hanlon still isn't over. DeWolf at the plate, and he goes with the outside pitch to left center. It's another ball over the head of Wargo, and DeWolf scoots to third for the RBI triple, bringing in Pakanowski. 5-1 Cardinals. Cards still have some scoring left. Klein back at the plate with the bases loaded in the bottom of the 4th. Solid contact to left nets him an RBI. He had 2 of them in the game with his 2 hits. 7-1 NCC after the 4th. With the lead, Singh is able to get into a groove. The defense behind Singh is solid all afternoon. 1 out top of the 7th with a runner on first. Singh elicits the DP ball from Eric Stevenson. 4-6-3. Doesn't get much simpler than that. Singh goes 8 innings and scatters 9 hits for his 4th win of the year. North Central rolls in Game 1.
So you've been coaching for a while, and you've been with North Central for a number of years. In your experience, what can you do as a coach to stop pressing? Is that just between the ears for the players? Is there anything that you can really do on a logistical level?
That's a great question. We've thrown a lot of things against the wall, I think, in the last week or so of trying to do it. And I think it's what never changes is it's never the game. And I don't think that, and I say this with great respect for everybody we've played, I don't think we've gotten beaten by a better team this year. Unfortunately, I think that regardless of who's in the opposing dugout, that's not a problem. Our problem is just within ourselves a little bit and trying to do too much. So we figured out a couple goals, inning by inning, game by game, where maybe we simplify the game a little bit more. Get 5 out of 9 leadoff hitters for an inning on base. Get 5 out of 9 runners at second base or in scoring position with less than 2 outs. Maybe smaller goal aspects that might help a little bit down the line. But to a certain extent, guys just need to play the game. And unfortunately, I don't have the button to push on that one. It becomes a little bit hairier for me to overcome that, I guess, from a coaching staff standpoint.
At the end of the day, it's baseball, you know, and you just have to go out and play the game. So you have a very important weekend coming up, Friday and Saturday, 3 games collectively against Illinois Wesleyan, which is the top team in the conference, and this has been a good team for the last couple of years. What's the game plan going into a very important weekend?
Yeah, and again, it goes back to the fact that Wesleyan obviously has had a great breath of success over the last few years, but it doesn't really make a difference. We could be playing the last place team, we could be playing the first place team. Really, our last 9 in conference play are all going to have the same equivalent as far as importance at this point. Wesleyan is a ball club that, to be honest with you, we lost a heartbreaker last year in Game 1 of a doubleheader down there. Really had the lead in Game 2 as well. We just weren't able to put them away. Now, I think this is a different ball club. I think we pitch atop the bottom a lot better this year. So I think they'll be competitive ball games. Most of ours have been. fact of the matter is just kind of playing a little bit relaxed, have a sole focus and be able to execute a little bit. If we can execute, I think we'll be fine.
You bring up pitching a couple of moments ago, and that's been one of the very bright spots on this team for, last couple of years, really. You've really had a lot of good staffs in your time at North Central. It's a whole same staff from last year. So as a coach, how much easier does that make that for you when you can throw out Ben Krusen or Chris Singh or Andrew Hauser at any given day and know that you're going to get a good start out of them?
It helps a little bit. I'm probably high-strung enough where it really doesn't make a difference whether or not a guy's got a one-hitter in the 8th inning or not. None of it's a whole lot of fun in the dugout for me. But, those guys have been obviously cogs in our rotation for a while, especially Krusen and Singh. Mm-hmm. We've had guys like John Rashid, Brian Polloway had a lot of innings last year as a freshman. Jordan Van Dyke did as well, and he's thrown well this year. We've had a number of guys who are back this year, and a couple of freshmen and newcomers, I think, who've added to the mix a little bit. So we're strong from a pitching staff standpoint. You just want to make sure that they keep that focus, too. I mean, it's real easy when you've got a guy who's had 2 or 3 or 4 really good starts and has kept the opponent to 1 or 2 runs or maybe even a shutout to kind of lose a little bit of that focus. Mm-hmm. And the way this conference works with as much parity, I think, as exists top to bottom, and anybody can knock off anybody, every game does have that kind of really singular importance. So our ability to kind of sleepwalk through a ball game or stub our toe could really cost us later on. So, I think it's just a fact of really making sure the guys keep focused more than anything else. But I think from a talent level standpoint, we've really been blessed, obviously, the last couple of years from an arm standpoint.
Good thoughts. We keep it right here with Coach Fitzgerald. More after this quick break on the Cardinal Report.
Hi, my name's CJ. A few years ago, my father became seriously ill. I did what I could do before he passed, but it took its toll. I lost my job, my house. I'm getting back on my feet, but I don't know when there'll be food on the table. How'd I do, CJ?
We could be twins.
Well, cousins, maybe.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Thanks for joining us back here on TCR. Still talking NCC baseball with head coach John Fitzgerald. And Coach, we talked about the starting staff a little bit. Let's go over to the offensive side of things and talk a little bit about Sam Klein, who missed all of last year. He led the team in batting average in 2012. In 2014, playing very well. What is he brought to the lineup and maybe to the outfield as well, energy-wise?
Well, energy is a big part of it. He's an incredibly talented player, obviously a local product out of Wabanza Valley High School before he spent his first year at Valparaiso. He's obviously has great lineage and a good bloodline with his father, being our longtime head cross-country coach. Sam is a guy who is high energy, works hard, has a phenomenal work ethic, and I think adds a lot to the ball club from a leadership standpoint. I would like more than anything else from a coaching staff standpoint, when you stand back a little bit, I'd like him to just relax and let instinct take over a little bit. Mm-hmm. He's a very thoughtful young man when it comes to baseball, and I think sometimes that can be his own worst enemy a little bit, but it's not for lack of wanting, and he's obscenely talented. He just needs to start to realize that he's very talented and can be obscenely successful regardless of what happens in any given at-bat.
And looking at Sam Klein, who leads the team in batting average right now, he's been so good, very clutch situations as well. What can you tell us about maybe what he's changed in his game from year to year?
He's gotten better consistently every year. I think he's got a great frame. He's a tremendous athlete, mm-hmm. and I don't think it would even matter what sport he played. He was a really good basketball player in high school, I believe, as well. He came here as a two-way guy. He pitched a little bit for us. He's got great arm strength. He was kind of a shortstop a lot in high school out of Burlington Central. And he's probably, and this is all you really need to say about Sam, I think in all fairness, he's probably the best center fielder in the league. And for the last 2 weeks, he's been our third baseman because of the injuries and what we've had to do. And he has the ability to play the left side of the infield, which, as you go through injuries and kind of figure out keeping your best lineup intact offensively, where do you need to move guys? And he's one who has never backed down from a challenge in his life, was willing to do it. Obviously, he's done it very well, but it's allowed us to keep his bat in the lineup. And he's really, really turning out to be, this is his junior year, just one, I think one of the better athletes in the entire conference.
And it's always good to be able to plug guys in at different defensive positions throughout the game, throughout the season, dealing with injuries. Looking at last couple of years, just barely missing out on the conference tournament. And as you mentioned in our first segment, the fact that you just got to take these last 9 games, take them one at a time and make sure that you can win all these, or at least most of them, and kind of back yourself into the tournament. But looking at missing the tournament the last couple of years, do you think that helps or hurts the team from a mentality standpoint? Do you think maybe they have a little bit extra motivation, or do you think that adds to the pressing that we were kind of referring to in the first segment a little bit?
You know, that's a great question. I think it probably goes a little both ways. I think there are guys who are hungry. You know, you've got guys like Sam Klein being one of them, Chris Singh, 2 guys who, Chris a senior now because he didn't redshirt, and Sam obviously did last year. You know, if Chris doesn't make it this year, then that's 3 years, where his career here on really pretty good ball clubs that he didn't make the conference tournament. And I think it goes a little bit for how good our conference is. I will say that. Last year, we did narrowly miss making it. I think that this is a vastly different ball club this year. I think the league is better top to bottom too this year. We let some games slip away last year and didn't really have all the pieces. I'll be honest with you, I think Sam Klein being back in our lineup every day really helps our chances this year significantly. Not only on the field, but what he does in the dugout and the clubhouse as well. But it's something that guys will press. It's kind of inevitable. You hope you can swing first in a ball game and take a little bit of that pressure off. And if you can figure out a way to manufacture runs early on in a ball game, it does take a little bit of that pressure off. So it's not a 0-0 ball game in the 5th or 6th inning, or you're down 2-0 and you've got a guy leading off an inning trying to hit a 3-run homer to win it with nobody on base. And that's unfortunately kind of what the case we've been in the last week or so. So if we can shed that with the pitching we have, and I think the offense, when it works obscenely well. I mean, we've kind of proven that early on in this year. We're going to be in fine shape. It's just a matter of kind of playing the game a little bit and not worry whether or not it's Illinois Wesleyan, Wheaton, or Carthage. Just make sure we get the first 1 to 27 outs.
And one of the other issues that you have to worry about, which isn't just the team you're playing, is just how compact the schedule is. We were talking a little bit before the show started about how, you know, weather problems, you know, just pack games in. How does that change the way you kind of game plan lineups, defensive positioning, anything like that, knowing that you're playing 2 games a day, 3 over a weekend, stretches like this? Yeah,
you know, it's been different this year. Obviously, we had a horrible winter. The spring hasn't been a whole lot better, save a couple days. And it's changed the dynamic a little bit. If anything else, there are a number of young arms we have that typically would throw on a Tuesday or Wednesday in non-conference games. And for whatever reason, whether the other team losing a game on the conference weekend, so they had to cancel our game to make up a game like Benedictine did, you know, that becomes an issue because now those guys aren't getting live reps. And as you get deeper into the tournament and maybe play the 5th or 6th game in a 3-4 day span, you want some of those arms to really be game ready. So we've thrown some in junior varsity games just to get them between the lines and see real live game experience. But I haven't been able to kind of spread the wealth as much because so oftentimes it's really been the 3 on the weekend, rain out here, cancellation here, then we're just playing the 3 on the weekend again. So our guys, I think, for the most part, are conditioned well enough to get through the 27 innings over 2 days on the weekend. But I'd like over these next few weeks to be able to spread things out a little bit, give a guy a day off if need be. But the other problem we've had is a couple of key injuries that have, you know, really hamstrung our ability from a depth standpoint in certain situations. So it's going to be an interesting ride for the last 3.5 weeks here, and it's going to be fast and furious, but I think our guys are ready to do it.
Well, strap on your seatbelt. We can't wait to see the ride, and we appreciate you stopping by. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks so much.
We got a quick break coming up right now, but keep it right here on the Cardinal Report. We talk to a starting pitcher from NCC's stable starting 5 and an outfielder that's tearing things up at the plate. Next.
Today is Saturday. 60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. Get ideas. Get involved. Get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Welcome back to TCR. Outfielder Sam Klein and pitcher Ben Krusen, our final guests on the show this week. Guys, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having us.
So let's talk about the season a little bit. Talking with Coach Fitz, just getting a kind of a general sense of how the season's going. You two guys have been, you know, one of the main cogs on each of your respective parts of the field. Ben, you are a pitcher, and Sam, an outfielder as well. And Sam, we'll start with you, who you have a batting average over 400 this season to lead the team, top 5 in the CCIW. So, what's been kind of the key to your success year to year, and where you are right now during this season?
Well, I think first and foremost, give a lot of credit to our hitting coaches, Marco Fajardo and Zach Deutscher coming on. They've had a great program for us in the winter. Getting practice times, getting swings in before the practice, and even after practice too. So they spent a lot of time with us, and I've taken the initiative to go in and put in a lot of extra work, and through the summer, through the fall, and the winter, and then now and it's paying off. So I'm pretty happy where we're at. I
think you can definitely see where that extra work is paying off so far. And over to you, Ben, you're part of a pitching staff that is, very much the same as what we saw last year with Andrew Hauser and Chris Singh. So how much is that kind of the familiarity between the starting pitching staff kind of helped you guys excel this season?
I think it's great. We've had the same starting rotation with a couple guys thrown in there for the past couple of years, like you said. Mm-hmm. And I think just being together is more of a family coming together. We have one freshman this year that came on that we all get along with. Everybody gets along, even with the hitters and everybody. I think we just have great team crowd.
Chemistry, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
yeah.
But last season, finishing under 500 for the first time in a number of years. You guys have been with the program for this is your third year now, being juniors. But what did you learn from last year? Maybe the struggles that you went through injury-wise, just lack of consistency in the lineup that maybe has kind of helped prepare you for this season?
Well, I think that this group of guys that we have this year definitely focuses more on baseball and coming to work every day and trying to get better, and that's our focus. Because the last 2 years, and it showed on the field that we had guys that were kind of not involved in the game. A little worried about other things off the field. So this group of guys more focused on baseball, and we're going through a rough stretch right now, but we'll turn it around, head in the right direction, and make a run at the CCIW tournament.
Well, it's been kind of a rough stretch because essentially it's been such a top-heavy schedule, front-loaded with a lot of good teams. Combined 6 games between third place Augustana, second place North Park early on in the CCIW schedule. And this week's What's the Word, we hear from some Cardinals about how the schedule is strengthening the team in the long run.
We're just trying to win every inning. Just keep the sticks going and have all of our pitchers throwing strikes and having our fielding be clean. Just take it one inning at a time and trying to win every one.
I mean, the attitude's different. Everyone wants to be here. And last year it was more about just having fun coming out here. This year we're trying to actually win ball games.
Every game is big in the CCIW, as it shows. Everybody's beating up on each other, so we're taking each game one by one. I'd say we got a lot of upperclassmen leadership this year compared to the last couple of years. So I don't know, everybody's doing their role well, and we're having fun this year.
We have a lot of older guys this year that we've all been around a lot. We got some new guys that just came in and just clicked. We all get along, and it's been amazing. And Coach Fitz has been just right there with us, making sure we're all up and just ready to go every game.
So before the season, Coach Fitch was talking about how maybe last year guys would, or maybe the team in general would maybe take games off and take games maybe more lightly than they probably should have. This year, I think you can sense that the team isn't doing that. Maybe the results haven't come like you wanted it so far, maybe in the CCIW schedule. But Ben, how do you think the team is doing from that point of view as far as taking games off, anything like that?
I mean, I don't think anybody's really taking a game off, but I think just the way the results have come, right now we're sitting 4th in the conference, and I think we have to look at it as a 9-game series or 9-game season. From here on out. We got Wesleyan this weekend, and then Wheaton and Carthage. And if we win every series and we play how we should play with our potential, we have a great opportunity to make a run in the to get to the tournament. And then with the talent we have, we can make a run in the tournament to get to a regional.
Beating the teams that you should be beating, I think, is an important part of the season. And looking at what you guys have done against Milliken, for instance, which is now 1-11 in the conference, you've been the 3 straight times, 3-0 against Milliken, and over to ELMHURST, which we saw earlier this weekend, a team that isn't doing that great in the conference, but they got the better of you in a 3-game split, 2-1. So what's the difference, you think, Sam, in beating teams that you should be beating between ELMHURST, Milliken, and what happens in those 2 scenarios?
Well, what we talk about a lot is trying to dominate a game, whereas, you know, we got a 4-run lead, 5-run lead, and letting teams hang around. That's not what we want to have happen. We want to dominate the team and extend our lead and keep putting the pressure on every single at-bat, every single inning. And lately we just haven't executed that game plan, and we'll get back to it. But that's a big factor, is just executing. It's not a lack of focus. It's not a lack of effort. It's just the execution part, and that's baseball. You know, things they swing on either side. Yeah, we just got to execute. That's it.
Now, one of your pitching mates in the starting staff, Chris Singh's been having a fantastic season, along with you and Andrew, really. But Chris is tied for first in the conference in strikeouts. You're tied for fifth, by the way, and Chris also with a sub-2 ERA. So what have you seen out of Chris this season where he's kind of really started to place himself in a dominant role on this team?
You know, I think it kind of comes with him being a senior and wanting to go on top. You know, he's worked his tail off all year, and I think it's definitely starting to prove himself right now.
So looking ahead, as I think, Ben, you mentioned looking at this as a 9-game season, just making sure you take it one game at a time. Where is the team right now? Is it heading in the right direction? Where do you want to end up by maybe conference time?
I definitely think we're heading in the right direction because you know, we'd rather have this little losing streak happen middle of the year as opposed to the end of the year. So we realize that we're not where we want to be. So we're doing what's necessary to turn the season around, pitching staff-wise, defensively, offensively with our approach. So we're going to get there. We're going to make a run at the tournament for sure.
But I think it's a good sign where you guys maybe aren't happy with where you are right now, but you're still fourth in the conference. You're still having one of the best pitching staffs and a lot of great offensive pops. So despite the fact that maybe you aren't totally happy with where you are, I think it's a good sign that there's still room to grow, and the fact that you are still being very good on the field and playing well. So what does that do for team morale, knowing that there's still room to grow, but you're still in a good position right now?
I mean, kind of going off of the 9-game series, you know, none of the stats that have already happened really matter. I mean, yeah, guys are having great seasons, but going into this weekend, it's one pitch, one game. You know, you got to have that outlook on it, as you can't really care what you've done or haven't done the past 20 or so games. You got to go at it full swing.
That's a good point.
And I think it makes us more hungry too, because you know, we talk about it. Everybody in our lineup is capable of you know, getting on base, getting hits, moving guys over, scoring runs. So it's not a lack of capability. It's just we got to execute. This little losing streak has made us hungry and realize that we have to improve, and we're going to do that.
Well, it's good thoughts, guys. Individual seasons both have been fantastic, and the team definitely on the right track as we head to the later portions of the year. We appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks. All right, thanks a lot.
That's all the time we have for this episode. Check out the rest of this season of the Cardinal Report archived in full at nctv17.com. I'm Justin ZIPSER. We'll see you next time.